thank you everybody for joining us today for our first session of the day for networking. So I hope you had a great intro session with Jonathan Franklin. He had some really great words to share, so I hope everybody enjoyed that. I want to thank SoCal Gas for sponsoring this session. We're really grateful to them. Thank you for your partnership. And I want to introduce our presenter today, Rudy Lacayo. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all of your knowledge with our students. A little bit about Rudy. He works right now at a company called Corn Ferry as the executive coach and a partner. He has the opportunity to work with top Fortune 100 leaders and make an impact in his community. He's a proud alum of the Hospital of Business, UC Berkeley. Go Bears, and also a Bear. Go Bears. And he is also a proud father and husband. So thank you, Rudy, so much for joining us. Everybody, please go ahead and use a chat feature as we go ahead and get started. Anything that you would like to go ahead and ask, you can go ahead and do that. So without further ado, thank you, Rudy.
Thank you, Olivia, and thank you, the Fulfillment Fund, all the folks that made today happen, and for all the folks that are joining me in today's virtual session. I really hope that the feeling today is one where it's an informal conversation, a chat, just an opportunity to learn from each other, share some ideas, which I will via PowerPoint, but more importantly, kind of learn from each other, from the group. So we're going to use both the chat feature and as well as we're going to have a poll. And today's session is really about networking and really the power of how do you go about doing that, and the importance of networking throughout your journey as a young adult and as well as in your school career as well as your business career. Whatever track you decide to go through. And so please do ask questions. Hopefully this is interactive and something that you can take away. I'll share a little story about me. Again, a very proud member, if you will, of Fulfillment Fund. Started, like many of you, with the fund as a young student in my early years in high school. Both as a student, I got the opportunity to be a mentor, as well as be mentored, more importantly, and then become a mentor and be involved in many of the things that Fulfillment Fund provides to students in the broader community. So I encourage you, as just like you're taking advantage of this learning opportunity, to continue to lean in, learn from each other, take advantage of those resources. It makes a huge difference. Networking for me, mentoring, coaching, which is all kind of in a similar space, is super important, because I'll say this, that I'm here because of many formal and informal mentors, as well as many folks in my network that have guided me, that I interacted with. And so I'm a product of many, maybe even hundreds of people in my life that were part of the mentoring and networking community. So super important. I left you my name and email via chat. Please, I encourage you to reach out to me. If we don't get through today's all your questions in today's call, please reach out to me via email. I'll do my best to reach out to you as soon as I get the opportunity. So I'm going to share with you some content, and again, it's only in the spirit of moderating the conversation. And so this is about networking, right? It's really about who you know sometimes, whether it be using other people's knowledge or their network or their insights. It's really about learning from others, leveraging their expertise, their networks, in order to support some of your personal and business goals, if you will, or even academic goals. So, what I like to suggest to you is that networking is inclusive of many different types of groups, right? Whether it be friends, family, classmates, other student community members, or just the people within Fulfillment Fund. They're all part of that rich ecosystem of networking. And so, really assessing who's in your network today, whether it be formal or informal, what role they play perhaps in your current life, or maybe there's someone in a career that you aspire to be in, or a class you want to go and take that maybe they've already been at. Those are all examples of who friends, family, and or others that could be part of that, of your network. Networking is again is super important. In I'm been most of my career in business, and whether it's I can share with you that I would say probably except for one job, and that was my initial job, if you will, most of my career progression in all my jobs, I basically have gotten that opportunity through a warm network, someone in my business network that introduced me to that company or to that client that I'm doing work with. It's always been through, typically, most times, through someone in my network. And so network is super important to build over time. And it is something that you create and build over time. It doesn't happen overnight. And hopefully people within your network are people that you stay connected to throughout your career, whether it be academic or other. And also it's important to know why do you want to, who in your network are you going to go after, so to speak? Not all, there should be some intent or purpose. And so, many of you are, and probably most of you are in some sort of academic school environment. Either you're about to head into school, or you're about to exit undergrad and go on to graduate school, or exiting graduate school and going on to whatever profession you're taking up. And so know that wherever you're at in your journey, in your networking and mentoring journey, it's never too late to start, and you can never have enough people within your network that hopefully can enrich your life and your experience, and be just another sounding board on your journey. I will differentiate a couple things. I think just a mentor, as probably everyone knows, is more of a formal relationship that you have with that individual in a mentoring capacity. A network or someone in your network could be a mentor, but it could also be just a casual acquaintance, a family member that has some insight, or someone at work that you're connecting with. Whether it be a virtual connection, and we'll talk about LinkedIn at the tail end of our session today, but it could be lots of folks, different stakeholders that make up your networking ecosystem, if you will. I want to share with you a short video from some folks, some young kids from USC. Hopefully this will resonate with you. Oops.
I don't think we can hear the sound, Rudy. Let's see if you share screen again, you can press share audio in the bottom left-hand corner.
Did it go? Okay, let me share that again. Did it go off? Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right.
I don't think there's sound. Yeah, I don't think we can hear the sound, Rudy. Let's try one more time.
What's that? Is it not showing?
We couldn't hear the sound.
Wonder how we might do that then.
So if you go ahead and close share screen, and then if you click share screen again before you go ahead and pick your screen, in the bottom left-hand corner that should say share audio, you can click that box.
How about now?
What if I told you you actually network every day? Whether it's in class, with your friends, or online, that's networking. It may feel a little awkward when you first start, but here are a few tips you can use to make those introductions easier.
Networking can happen in ways you least expect. Have you heard of the 6 degrees of separation? It's basically the concept that you can be connected with anyone in the world through just 6 people or less. An acquaintance can be just the break you need to meet your next professional goal. While you can definitely network with CEOs and directors, try also networking through student organizations, Trojan alumni, and your work colleagues. These are all great networks to tap into.
Update your social media and make sure it looks professional. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn are all ways to easily be discovered online, and this will most likely be your first impression. Yes, employers are likely to Google you during the networking process, and people are drawn to profiles that are accurate and complete. Use LinkedIn to join the Trojan Network and find out where they're working now and how to get connected.
Stay tuned for more tips this December. Fight on, Trojans!
All right, so hopefully you got some tips there from our folks at USC. I want to do a quick little pulse question regarding mentoring, and just I'm curious how many of you have an active mentor. So if you can respond to the poll question you see up on the screen. Who here has a current mentor is the question. And I don't know if you're able to see the results coming in, but we'll share the results in a second here. So as results are coming in, let's see if I can share results. Okay, well I got an error, but it shows about 60% of you have an active mentor or have a mentor relationship today, and then the other 45%, give or take, do not. And so my first challenge for the team here, for my student colleagues and Fulfillment Fund brothers and sisters is find, take the time to find that mentor, right? And we'll talk about ideas around how to go about identifying a mentor. And again, Fulfillment Fund use that as a resource to identify a mentor, to be intentional about asking about your curiosity of getting a mentor, and hopefully using a Fulfillment Fund as one avenue to identify a mentor that might be a good match for you. And there's many other channels where you can find formal or informal mentors. So really encourage you to find that individual or those individuals in your broad network of people that make up your community of folks you connect with. The next section is about informal interviewing, and so I'm curious in the chat if you can spend take 1 minute and share with me. Have you ever had an informal interview, whether it's informal interviewing someone in a class because you want to kind of get a sense of what that class is all about, or an informal interview, informational interview, if you will, with some person in a particular career area that you're interested in exploring? If someone can share with me in chat, have you had informational interviews in the past? Have you taken advantage of that as another way of broadening your network? Okay, and you can do that by yes or raising your hands. All good. So I see some yeses. Great. Awesome. So a lot of people are saying yes, and others are not, but that's okay. And so the awesome thing about informational interviews is it's an opportunity to make a connection virtually or physically with someone in an area of interest that you're curious about, whether it be in a professional career or other. And it's really an opportunity for that individual, hopefully, if they're open to sharing with you what they do, how they do it, how they got there, what they learned, the good and the bad and the ugly. I mean, there's any experience has shades of everything, but that sharing in those insights might help you really understand if is that a career journey I want to take on? Is that a topic I want to lean into, or a profession I want to eventually be curious in go and exploring further, and maybe someday applying and getting whatever the educational requirements are. So informal informational interviews can serve that purpose. It's almost like direct research, if you will, if you've ever done research on a major project. They're not job interviews, but they're really just an opportunity for you to explore more about a particular career. And as well as that serves as an opportunity for you to make a potential connection with someone that might be formally a part of your network, is another person in your network. And so know that this is very effective. And again, the Fulfillment Fund at times has put in place these kinds of sessions around career. So utilizing these events to, if you hear about someone's career and you're curious about them, I encourage you to reach out. So that's my second challenge to the folks on this call is lean into the folks that you've met virtually on this career expo or this expo today. Lean into each other, because all of you are another source of information, whether it be internships you might have had, other experiences that you've accomplished today, to share your learnings as well as have others learn from you. So this is just a quick guide to informational interviews. Again, do your research, right? Be clear on the companies or the different organizations you're trying to target, and be ready with your set of questions in terms of whether they're just curiosity in terms of what the company does, but really hopefully curate your questions towards that individual, right? Do your best to understand as much about the company, perhaps as much of that area or department or specialty area that individual that you're interviewing, it as much intel as you can, so that you can be as intentional about your interview. And I use the word intentionally because it's important that you're as prepared as you can with the research of that company, your set of questions. Hopefully those questions are open-ended so that you can get as much feedback from those individuals that you're interviewing with. And of course, as you know, LinkedIn is for now one of the primary professional forums that all of us, whether it be in a business profession or other, typically use to have a professional profile. So any company you can think of, both business or other, typically has a LinkedIn profile, a setup that again could be another source of information for you to get insight on the company, as well as figure out who works in that company that might be already indirectly connected to you. Indirectly connected meaning you might have a friend of a friend that actually has an association with that professional organization or that individual you're about to do an informational interview. So LinkedIn's a rich resource that you can leverage, and we'll dive into LinkedIn in a few minutes later in this call. Again, attire, your attitude, but more importantly, your attitude is super important. That energy, being as professional, being on time, being ready to go with that informational interview, and be respectful of people's time and thank them, right? Post call is super important. Again, this is not in a formal job interview. This is an informational interview, which is different. Again, career networking and resources. Again, I like you, I was very lucky to be a part of the Fulfillment Fund, and I didn't realize it then, but Fulfillment Fund has a ton of resources that I would, most days, if I could go back, I would start with all the resources that the Fulfillment Fund provided me, really taking advantage of leveraging those resources, including leveraging them for networking and mentoring among many other things that they provide the students within the Fulfillment Fund community, but also leverage each other, right? Again, all of you or most of you may have already participated in a summer internship or maybe work today. Being able to learn from your current alumni and or colleagues within Fulfillment Fund is a great starting point. Don't reinvent the wheel if you can. Leverage what's in front of you is the third challenge that I would give you is leverage, the resources that are in front of you. Don't try to minimize reinventing the wheel. So connecting with alumni via LinkedIn, via your alumni at school, your fellow Fulfillment Fund participants is critical. And there's obviously other sites, and there's many. We're not going to go through all of them. LinkedIn, of course, being one of the critical ones. But every school that your school, if you will, has their own version of a career center. So making sure that where you can take advantage of those free career services that are at each school. All schools have a career center, and then there's a whole host of information online. But again, I would, from my perspective, keep it as simple as you can. Leverage Fulfillment Fund, leverage your career center, take advantage of those resources. And then there's other sites, and there's many, too many to count here, that again can provide you insight to any organization out there that you're curious about in terms of what they do, how they do it, their requirements, if you will, to get those types of jobs. If you want to be, if you know what you want, if you will, and you're that there's ways to really hone in on those types of jobs and really understand what the requirements are for those opportunities. So know that there's a whole cadre of information out there and resources for you. Let me ask, before I go into LinkedIn, let me ask you a question on chat. Do you have today a current LinkedIn profile for you? Who has a current LinkedIn profile already on site? If I can get a few yeses here or raise of hands, that would be awesome. Okay, I see a lot of yeses. That's great. And if you don't, it's all good. It's never too late to start. And again, today, because things can change tomorrow, but today LinkedIn is for professionals, for people, wanting to expand their network, seeking opportunities and information. LinkedIn is the professional forum. That is where your profile, perhaps different than, let's say, other platforms. And what do I mean by other platforms? The Twitters, the Instagrams, for those that are a little older like myself, maybe Facebook, etc. Those are different. Those are not professional platforms unless you curate your profile in a way that's professional. So I would suggest to you, most companies, including academic institutions, they all have a LinkedIn profile. They all go there typically first to do research on you before they go anywhere. So they can Google you, and obviously whatever profiles you have out there in cyberspace, including Facebook, Twitter, etc., will pop up, obviously. But in terms of really understanding who is the candidate in front of me, typically that is via LinkedIn. And so it's important that you begin to set up your LinkedIn profile as early as you can. If you don't already have one, please consider creating one. Fulfillment Fund has information more in depth about how to structure a good initial LinkedIn profile. And again, think of this platform as another networking opportunity. As for those that are already on LinkedIn, you know that you can research any company, any professional organization, and quickly identify who already has a relationship there. who already works there and create that network. I would suggest that the fourth challenge I give you today is hopefully you have plenty of Fulfillment Fund alumni and Fulfillment Fund colleagues as part of your network. It's super important. I still have a few people in my network that are from back in the day when I was a student in the Fulfillment Fund. Now, they didn't have LinkedIn back then, but my point is, evolve. Your network will evolve over time as you progress academically and in your career. Your network will be hundreds of people over your lifetime or over your career. And so I would say, think of LinkedIn again as another virtual way to connect with people across the globe, connect with them, whether it be individuals or even companies, right? So every company that you can think of has its own landing site on LinkedIn. And so you can stay informed about different opportunities that those companies have, events, job openings, et cetera, that they're hosting just by being on their forum, being a part of that company forum on LinkedIn, and because you're then automatically following them. So what I would say about LinkedIn, what's super important, what is a must-have if you don't already have a LinkedIn account, or if you do, make sure you have and I'll just go through the 4 or 5 checklist items. Make sure you have a professional headshot, that it's clear, that visually the lighting is good. It doesn't have to be something you go and pay for, but know that a headshot's important. No avatars. This is not the place to have avatars. And so it's super important to have a professional headshot, that if you're a student, that you call that out, that you're a student at University X and graduating on X, Y, and Z date. If you're a young professional, put your title in where you work. And so that picture, that the titling of what you do today is important. And underneath the headshot in the title is usually a headline or a summary that you can explain, that gives you the opportunity again for you to share with whoever the reader is what you're studying. If you're in an academic setting, that you're focused on XYZ academic topic with the aspirational goal to someday be fill in the blank. So it's important for you to share with the reader what you're doing and what you aspire to do if you're in an academic setting, if you're a student still. If you're a young professional, making sure that you share a little bit about what you're focusing on, right? So if you happen to work in technology and your specialty is artificial intelligence, that you highlight in your in your summary page or summary section, a little bit about what you do, and something that ideally is a fun fact about what you like to do, whether you volunteer or other significant accomplishments that you've made. Of course, if your experience section will grow over time with many of the jobs that you might have over time, but know that what's most important is the last 2 jobs that you've held most recently. So if you've had only one job, put that out there, the name of the company, a little bit of the summary of what you're doing or what you did do, and anything there that's important, accomplishments, anything. The last thing I would say, which is not on here, I would say over time, people that hire and look at LinkedIn profiles and are looking at you as a prospect client, or a prospect candidate for a job, they want to hear and they want to see and they want to read, what are other people saying about you? So finding ways to ask for a recommendation, there's a recommendation section at the bottom of LinkedIn, is super important over time, right? You're not going to have 20 recommendations out of the gate, but over time, maybe you did a great project in one of your classes with your recent institution you graduated with, or maybe you just completed a significant project or accomplishment or milestone at your company. My 5th challenge for you is start identifying its quality versus quantity. What 1 or 2 people in my network would vouch for me and recommend me for the work that I did, or the volunteer opportunity that we were both in, or that one school project that we worked on that the professor could recommend me. Start creating your story, because LinkedIn is synonymous with your brand, with your virtual professional brand. And I keep on saying professional because sometimes what we put on Twitter and Instagram and so forth, that is not our professional self. It can be if you're being intentional about it, but most days it isn't. And so LinkedIn is that one forum that allows you to have a social media brand out there. It represents you. So be intentional about how you shape your story over time on LinkedIn. And I say over time because, again, many of you are starting your careers and you don't have all those experiences yet, but it's being intentional about who might recommend me. How do I position my story? If I'm looking for a career switch, how do I start sharing within my LinkedIn that I'm looking for opportunities? By the way, if you have questions, please stop me or put your question on chat feature. We're happy to address questions as we go. All questions are valid. Again, more about LinkedIn, about, again, many of you volunteer. Many of you are taking the latest and greatest skills and certification, or just graduated with a certain emphasis or topic. All of that is fair play to include in skills and expertise. Any honors, obviously, Fulfillment Fund is a very selected program. So it's important for you to highlight those. I see Fulfillment Fund, well, one, hopefully, it's a selected program. So it's an honor if you were to be a part of this program, as well as many other programs that you participate in, scholarships you receive. All of those are fair game to include in your honors and rewards section. And again, we talked about projects that you might have been, and we highlighted the importance of recommendations over time. It's important that you build that over time. I have a question here. How do I find a Fulfillment Fund member or alumni on LinkedIn? Well, I'm going to answer part of it, and then I'm going to have my Fulfillment Fund colleagues here jump in if I miss something. But the Fulfillment Fund on LinkedIn actually has an alumni forum. So within LinkedIn, if you type in Fulfillment Fund alumni or Fulfillment Fund, there should be a forum within LinkedIn that is specifically Fulfillment Fund, and you can add yourself to that network. And all of a sudden, your network has grown 10x, 100x, because most of us that are alumni from way back in the day are part of that alumni. So let me pause and make sure that I gave you guys the right information. Anything I'm missing here around LinkedIn and Fulfillment Fund?
All that is correct, Rudy. Yeah, it's if you go on LinkedIn and you can search Fulfillment Fund, you'll get all kinds of people, right, who put it in their profiles, maybe people who've worked here before. So it's a really great way to connect with people past and present, right? So yeah, definitely use that search bar, type in Fulfillment Fund, and you'll see all the connections that are there.
Great. And by the way, most of you that have received a scholarship outside of Fulfillment Fund, those scholarship organizations also have alumni forums. So I'll pick on the National Hispanic Scholarship Fund, massive network there. So know that if you've been very lucky to get a scholarship from any organization, they too have a network. And just by being an alumni or recipient, that they're going to pick up your call. It is I've never had someone not pick up my call. Now they might say, hey Rudy, I can't see you for about a month and a half because I'm whatever busy, or I have whatever they're doing, but they've always been receptive to picking up a call from a young person starting their career. Any other questions related to what we talked about? Keep those questions coming. The LinkedIn link is in our chat box so that you can quickly go to the Fulfillment Fund and add yourself into that forum, that LinkedIn Professional Forum. Don't forget to network within your university, right? So if you just graduated, that's another source of rich alumni and career services. Again, just to recap, critically important, right? Headshot, a little briefing about you, get your connections started. I would say again, part of the challenge to all of you here today is network within your Fulfillment Fund brothers and sisters. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. Start with the resources that are in front of you. Ideally, when you connect with someone, it asks you, well, why do you want to connect with me? And so if, for example, if you wanted to connect with me and you and I just don't know each other yet, and you send me a request to connect, if you were to put as an example, hey, I heard you on the Fulfillment Fund Expo. I'm a Fulfillment Fund student, or I'm a recent alum. Can we connect? So make sure that you're intentional about, well, why do you want to connect with that individual? Or where do they know you from? So make that connection. If you can curate that, that's important. So that makes hopefully them accepting your connection seamless if possible. And then, of course, if there's a particular ask, that's number 5. You want to set time for an informational informal interview. You do that, right? You follow up. You're timely. You're respectful. You're professional as best as you can in terms of that virtual interaction. So in the back of this, there's more career sources and networking and information around networking and info interviews and career planning. There's just a ton of information that is available to you today virtually on demand that wasn't available many years ago. So I think your challenge among many things is don't get overwhelmed, right? Start somewhere, and start with one person that in terms of your network, and then build from there. What questions haven't we talked about that you're still curious about? What things do you still want us to continue, focus on? Use the chat feature if you'd like, or if we have the ability to unmute, great. But what else are you curious about regarding networking, the power of LinkedIn, mentoring, and so forth?
First, I want to say thank you, Rudy. That was really amazing information. Thank you for sharing that. But I think a question that at least I come in contact a lot is, our students may be a little bit more reserved. So how do you just initiate that first connection? If you do feel a little bit shy, maybe you don't have as much experience, how can you build that confidence to make that first connection with somebody?
Yeah, I would start with friendlies, right? Who I hope that the Fulfillment Fund group is a friendly group. How might you set up your LinkedIn profile, initially, very basic, so to speak, right? You grow into a more layered LinkedIn profile. And then how might you just start with someone within this network, within the Fulfillment Fund alumni group or group? Start with people that you know. It's not about quantity, it's about the quality of those individuals. Ideally, over time, if you have 500 people in your network, I hope that you actually know who those people are and that you have some connection with them, right? And so you want to start with your closest resources right in front of you. I would start with the Fulfillment Fund group, the alumni. I would join immediately the Fulfillment Fund alumni group within LinkedIn as a starting point.
Thanks, Rudy. And then we do have a couple questions in the chat. One that we have, once you've already made a connection, what's the best way to keep in contact and how often should you reach out?
So I get the privilege of coaching leaders all over the world. That's my full-time job. And one of the things we've been talking about this month is, as the holidays come around, how might you stop, reflect, and thank those people that are important within, whether it be family members, student colleagues, or even where you work today. What are the few folks within that ecosystem that you want to thank? And so, I would say, think about how do you use the holidays to use that as an opportunity to reach out to some individuals you haven't, and just, say happy holidays. And I'm looking forward to maybe connecting with you, next year in a meaningful way. We've all been in this kind of 2-year bunker down pandemic situation. It's been very challenging for everybody. older adults for sure, as well as younger kids, right? And younger adults, in the sense that we've all been kind of, more sheltered, if you will, because of the pandemic, and less of a going out there and networking. So I would say, again, start with people in your immediate group that are friendlies, is what I call them, whether it be family members, fulfillment fund, students from your current schools or ex schools. That's important. Start there and then build from there. Always, when you reach out to any professional, be intentional about, why am I reaching out to you? 10 out of 10 times they will respond to your email or your call, and if they don't, that's okay. You move on. You move on to the next person that's in your list of folks you want to connect with. Let's see other questions that we might have here. Any other questions that I'm missing here?
Let's see, we have one that came in. Are you able to find internship opportunities on LinkedIn or job opportunities?
Yes. So let's say I'm making up a company, right? So let's say you're targeting Google. You go to Google's, two places you can go: their site as well as their LinkedIn forum. Within LinkedIn, they have a Google landing page, and there might be information about, typically there would be information about different job opportunities. So there's two places: their landing site, their homepage, or the LinkedIn profile. And once you go to their LinkedIn profile, quickly figure out, is there anyone there that and there might be. As you grow your network, that goes back to what the young adult said about at USC. There's always like a 6th degree that you might be connected to somebody that already works there. So there's two primary places I would go to: landing site for that company you're looking for to see if there's jobs, and then what are they saying about job opportunities within their LinkedIn forum. What else? What other questions do you have? All questions are fair.
Let's see. Okay, this one's asking maybe about scams. So how can you identify scams? So this one's saying, is there such things as scam companies that may try to connect with you? And how can we recognize that?
So that's a hard one. I don't know, right? I haven't. I'm a pretty active user of LinkedIn. I have not been scammed, but I'll say this. You want to be also careful who's trying to connect with you, right? Do you know that individual? Do you know their company? Is there, what are they asking you? Why are they asking you to connect? Usually when you ask for a connection, you're putting a blurb like, hey, I saw you at Fulfillment Fund, Expo, I would love to have an informal interview. That's legit, right? And then you can decide whether you connect with that individual or not. But there are definitely, I'm sure, people that are scamming folks on LinkedIn all day. But I think use a bit of common sense. Do you know that individual? Where would you know that individual? Do I know the company they work in? How am I connected? What's my association? If you're coming up with blanks, then it's an individual personal choice. Do I accept their connection or not? But that's a great question.
Yeah, really good question. Thank you for that advice. Okay, so we are at about time. So I want to thank everybody for attending, and thank you everybody for your participation and your questions. If you enjoyed this event and you want to do more with networking in the future, we are going to be having a follow-up in February where you'll be able to meet one-on-one with professionals and put these networking skills to the test. So definitely stay in contact with us. We'll be sending out that event invitation once everything's squared away. But thank you again, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your workshops.